Welcome to the Men of Iron podcast, changing a culture one man at a time. At Men of Iron, we equip men and grow godly leaders through creating and sustaining one-to-one and micro-group mentorships. Go to menofiron.org for more info. Thanks for listening. We are back live with the Men of Iron podcast, episode 18. It's Steve and Garrett live from Manheim, PA. What's going on, G?
Episode 18.
I know, man.
That's hard to believe.
Yeah, it is. It's cool. It's been a fun year getting this podcast started. I would love to get to episode 20 by the end of December. I think we can do it.
Probably don't want to go back to episode 1 and see how bad we sucked at this.
It was bad. Man, it's bad. I don't even think we were talking into the mic. We were just kind of like sitting back.
We thought we were cool, but
yeah, it was bad. But episode 18, I think it's getting a little better. Plus, we have Derek Dienner here.
That's right.
Man.
That is right. I'm excited.
That hurts. I mean, doesn't I don't know if I help you or hurt you.
Episode 18 is brought to you by our dear friends TJ and Brooke at Walk in Love. Go to walkinlove.com to buy the most comfortable t-shirt ever. It's rare that we're filming a podcast and one of us isn't wearing Walk in Love.
I know.
We're like dressed to the T today. I don't know what happened.
Dressed to the T. And if you haven't heard the news, they are feel the Lord is calling them away from the business.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be the last month, I believe, or last 2 months. I don't know exactly what the date is of the official shutdown, but this is their last inventory. So
last batch of shirts. So go get one. Go get one for your mom, your wife, your brother,
husband,
everybody in the family.
Yeah.
Well, we would love to introduce our special guest today, Derek Diener. Derek is an entrepreneur and filmmaker. He is the CEO and creative director of Make Films based out of Lancaster, PA. He is a husband and father of 2. Derek, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Man, it's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
What's going on?
Nothing much, It's been a good week so far. Eagles won last night, which was good.
It's a good win.
I was at the game, so
Oh, man, even better.
You were here this morning. Wow, that's impressive.
coffeeed up, ready to go. Yeah.
Well, Garrett's a Steelers fan, so he doesn't really care too much about the Eagles.
Let's not talk about something.
Yeah.
Neither do the Philly fans really care about the Eagles right now either. So let's just be real
Hey, we're on a
honest.
2-game winning streak, first winning streak of the year, so
2-game winning streak. That's so funny.
Got that going for us.
so we'll take it. And we're still the Super Bowl champs, in case you forgot.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
All right, just checking.
We have a lot more, but
I
it's
knew
okay.
I was figuring. I thought you were going to say just one, It's really recent, though, So,
It is. Now, I was rooting for the Eagles last year. We had a podcast about this.
We
remember?
did. Yeah,
I
we
was
actually,
rooting for 'em.
right before the Super Bowl, we had our special guest was a Patriots fan.
Yeah,
So
that's
that was-
right.
Yeah, anyway.
How'd you let that happen?
Hey, it worked out for us.
Yeah.
So, Derek, we're happy to have you, man. Who is Derek Diener? Just tell us about yourself, man.
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur. I'm, a father, a friend. I mean, I have so many facets to what I do every day, I think. But my main goal in life is just to be a better version of myself every day. So whatever that means, And I've always been one that has a camera. Since I was a kid, I've had a camera in my hand. Since I was a kid, I've loved, business and had some businesses as a kid, like, built computers for people in high school and middle school and paper out and lawn mowing and stuff like that. Didn't really make a lot of money, but definitely generated revenue.
Right.
Profit wasn't always there, but as I grew up, kind of figured out how to, change that and figure out, is there ways in the creative world to make a living and have a business and have a team and grow and all these things. And it's been a crazy journey where there's a team of 8 of us now at Make, and wouldn't want it any other way. I mean, the solo entrepreneur world is not for me. And so creative trust and building with people that you like, that are better than you at a lot of things, is so much fun every day. So
Awesome.
So I'm basically just a person who's trying to kind of create great content and work with good people and have a business,
Awesome.
And if you have not seen any of Make's product or content, I really recommend you check out their website. Derek, what is your website?
Yeah, thanks. That's makefilms.cc.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I was checking out some of your work, just kind of preparing for this podcast. You guys are incredible.
Yeah, thanks. We have a great team, work with some great clients, and I'm lucky to be able to tell stories every day for a living.
It's awesome.
This isn't on our agenda, but you did say it, and I think it's important to talk about, especially in regards to men and mentorship and the journey of a man. You said like the journey of like a solo entrepreneur was not for me. And I can relate to that because the early days of Men of Iron, it was just like me showing up and trying to get direction and trying to hear from God on where do you want me to go, and how do you want me to go? And,
Right.
and I quickly realized like it's a lonely journey.
It is.
It
Yeah.
can be a very lonely journey when you're out there, and so it's interesting to hear you say that, because we've had a lot of people that have come back to us and said, well, why are you making new hires, and can't you guys do this with a smaller team?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, could we? Yeah. Could we make could we continue to have the impact and grow at the rate that we are? Probably not. With growing a team, obviously comes more challenges.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love
Yeah.
the journey of that. So it's interesting to hear you say that.
Yeah, I think with anything, it's like having kids. It's like a challenge when you have kids. Every day you're faced with being consistent and being a good example, and teaching and learning every day. I think like the extremes of like the highs and the lows maybe get a little bit further away from each other sometimes, because the hards are harder and the joyful moments are more enjoyable. And I think growing a team and expanding your business is the same way. I think just the highs are more exciting because you're able to do more together. You're able to kind of accomplish more. And with just me by myself, it's like I have so many deficiencies. I have so many things that I can't do well. I have a very small window of things I can do well, and so all the other things, the team around me just makes up for it every day, and they do an incredible job. So without them, I would, without my wife and without everybody around me, I wouldn't even be close to where I'm at. And mentors too. The mentorship thing is super important to me. So
That's awesome.
That's really
iron sharpens iron, Steve.
That's right.
Yeah.
For crying out loud, get on board with it, will you?
yeah.
I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that sounds familiar.
Is that in the Bible somewhere? Well, Derek, we're gonna pepper you with take 5 here and make you sweat a little.
Go for it.
All right, man. You ready? Take 5. Question number 1 is, who or what inspires you?
I think what inspires me. Should I pause? Or?
No, you're good.
No, you're good.
Sorry,
You're good.
okay.
You're good.
Just keep going. Okay. So what inspires me is really people that are willing to kind of take the training wheels off and do what they feel like they're called to do. So that's what inspires me. And I think we all have different versions of that. We all have different levels in terms of risk, in terms of whatever that means, in terms of even financial risk. But if someone's willing to kind of take that step and do something against the grain or against the crowd, that inspires me.
It's funny.
awesome.
That's what Jason Lance answered. Those like,
Yeah.
just go for it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
like it.
Question number 2 is, what would you say is your greatest career accomplishment?
I think building the team that we have right now. I think the 8 mighty people that we have, the strong army. I think of 8. Looking back at the last couple of years of how this kind of grew to where it's at, is a pretty cool accomplishment. I mean, I can't take the credit; it's really their accomplishment. But just kind of putting the pieces in place and trusting people along the way, and letting go of things as an entrepreneur in the beginning, where you're doing everything yourself and figuring out how to let those things go. That so far, in terms of my career, is my greatest accomplishment.
That's awesome. Question number 3 for take 5 is, what brings you joy?
My family and my relationship with God is the cornerstone of my existence. That brings me a lot of joy, of course. That through my family and that through the people around me, is what brings me joy. And also probably the most stress too. Just to be real, I'm not trying to like fake this, but I think like I said, kids are amazing, but they also are amazing.
Well, I told Garrett this morning, my wife and I are on like a 3-week stretch of our daughter. She's 1.5 not sleeping, so it's a little rough.
It's tough.
Yeah,
No, I know.
She interrupted the Eagles game last night too.
Oh man, yeah.
She's so selfish.
I know.
I know she's so
I texted my brother that, and he said she just wanted to watch the game. I'm like, yeah.
It's like military, training. What kids do to you at that age,
It is.
It's like no sleep. And,
Come on, Steve.
Yeah, training to be a
Step
Navy
up, will
SEAL
you?
or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. All right, question number 4, Derek, is, what is your favorite thing about the Christmas season?
I think my favorite thing about the Christmas season is that it naturally brings people together. Obviously, celebrating, the birth of Jesus is the cornerstone of really what Christmas was about. But through that, it brings families together. It brings people together. People tend to slow down a little bit. As Americans, we work way too much. So there's opportunities to slow down. I think, unfortunately, more retail is opening more during these times than ever, but so people have to work more. But I think in general, people slow down, kind of take in the world around them. And
That's good.
That's awesome. All right, last question for Take 5 is, what album or song have you had on repeat lately?
Whew. Well, I think I've been listening to anything right now by the artist Sleeping at Last. I don't know if you've heard of them, but incredible music. It's one of they have a lot of covers. They also have a lot of he does a lot of his own music too. But it's just music that I can write well, I can focus well, and I can just kind of get into this mode of creating. I think it's a good creating soundtrack and artist. So Sleeping at Last has been incredible. If you check them out, they're really good.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Cool, man. Well, you survived Take 5. That wasn't so bad, huh?
Yeah, it wasn't so bad.
So, Derek, I know we want to get into kind of the main topic for today, and I think maybe a lot of local people might know your journey. It seems like you're well connected. You're in the networking world, but those listeners and maybe viewers and subscribers that are not from the area probably don't know much about your journey that you've been through since August 2017. So for those that don't know, Derek, you were diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in August of 17, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And here you sit today, which is amazing. All glory to God.
Yes.
Amen.
But you created this documentary in this journey. Being a creative, I can imagine this came somewhat naturally, but I can't imagine it was a very easy process to document either. But The Day I Became Alive is the name of your documentary. And so can you just talk about this a little bit? Talk about your journey. It's been a little bit over a year now, where you're at now, and talk about the documentary a little bit and what it's done.
Yeah, so August 24th, 2017 was the day I was diagnosed with colon cancer, stage 3 colon cancer. And I think the initial shock of it, like everybody always says, wasn't expecting to be diagnosed with colon cancer. 31, cancer wasn't even in my brain. The mortality wasn't even in my brain in some ways when you're that young too. I mean, I still think 30 is young. There's probably people who listen to this that are probably 18 or 20. Like 30, what? That's old.
That's old.
Anyway, so so that completely kind of shook my wife and I, like our world and everything. But I decided to take the approach of like, what is this teaching me? And I was blessed to have symptoms. I mean, I think my big message to people through my documentary was, if anything changes in your body, get it checked. Not to get gross or anything, but I had blood in my stool. It's important to talk about symptoms, and if anything changes in your body, get checked. Go to a doctor, and don't mess around with that. I mean, you don't want to, like, every little thing. You don't have to necessarily think about, but if something changes 90 degrees or changes 180 or whatever, get checked. And so because I got checked about like 6 to 8 weeks after my symptoms started, I gave my body a fighting chance. You never want to hear the words you have cancer, but at least you catch it in a stage that's, not stage 4 where it's spread throughout your body. So I was very blessed to have symptoms and also to have it caught at that stage, because sometimes that's not the case. So I really started to think, what, this is like a moment for me to take this in and be like, what is this teaching me, and what does God want to show me through this? And I was talking to a coworker, to Alan, in the office one day, and said, man, I don't know, I just feel like I learned so much about myself. It's almost like I don't know, maybe I became alive. And he's like, it's the day you became alive. And that's kind of where it started. That was probably a couple weeks after I was diagnosed. And then around that time, I was thinking, is there something that I can share? Is there something that I can film just for me too, to be like, it's also a little bit of a healing process for me to capture. It's the way I kind of communicate through stories, through video like that. So I thought, can I use what I do every day and the team around me to create something that can inspire people to do, to get checked, and to just kind of live the best life that they have in front of them, and to not think that, like, okay, next year, tomorrow I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it later, I'm going to do it later, but to think like life is not guaranteed for any of us. And not that it's a morbid message, but it's a positive message of saying, like live today and hug the people around you. Like if you have an estranged father, like, talk to him, or a brother or something. Like family and the people around you are what you should really be focused on and what we should care about. So that is kind of in the my shorter version, what how the doc started, and then my the make team really just kind of stood, came in and helped, direct and help me. My brother Aaron, who shot a lot of it and edited a lot of it, was co-director with Alan Clemens at the office as well, and so they had to really take the story as well and help me kind of figure out how I want to craft it and how I want to say it. So there's a lot of kind of background, and of course, like going through chemo and going through hard things, like you don't always feel like having the camera in front of you, but and of course there's a lot of times that I didn't, but I thought that like just this moment, just like get a selfie video or like get some stuff, like just like capture this, because hopefully I never have to go through chemo again, right. And so that's really what happened. So basically what happened was I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer in my sigmoid colon, to get technical, stage 3B, and they were able to cut out 8 inches of my colon with the tumor. And at like 8 days after I was diagnosed, it was kind of a fast thing, like we need to get this out. And it was what they call curative surgery. So basically they were able to remove the whole cancer out of me. And then because some of my lymph nodes in my colon were infected with cancer cells, we did chemo for 6 months just to make sure that like the cancer cells that are maybe in my body would kind of get killed by the chemo. So, chemo's hard, but again, I think because I'm young, I mean, that was a negative thing at first, but then a positive thing because my body was able to bounce back from things. And now I'm about 7 to 8 months outside of chemo now. I finished March 21st, which was the first day of spring, which was also a snowing day here in Lancaster. Yeah. So to me, it represented something interesting. It was like, sometimes it was my last day of chemo. My wife surprised me with a whole group of people at the Ann Barcher Cancer Institute, which is a cool moment in the documentary. It is. And a lot of my friends and family, it was pretty cool. But that was the last day of my chemo, and I felt like, yes, okay, this is the last day of my chemo, but it reminded me of like, it's the first day of spring, but it's snowing, it's my last day of chemo, but I'm not quite healed. I'm still have a long way to go. And I think sometimes life is so seasonal, and a lot of times we're ready for the next season, but we kind of have to a little bit more time in that season, even if things are shifting. So it was very kind of poetic to me. Even though it was cold and sucked.
Derek, talk to us a little bit about, you get diagnosed with cancer. You said it earlier in the podcast, like there's many components to your life. Mm-hmm. You're a husband, you're a father, you're a business owner, you're a boss, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're a friend, you're a brother. What that initial shock, right? Like there's that initial shock. And then it's like, all right, you have to accept the fact that, all right, this is reality. Yeah. And I've got a decision to make, and I'm going to move forward with an optimistic, positive attitude. And, I've never personally had to deal with cancer, but mom was diagnosed with breast cancer when I was a kid. Family members, obviously, since then. And people close to even our organization. Yeah. And so many times we hear this idea that, like, your attitude is everything.
Yeah.
And so talk to us a little bit about how it affected you in those different components of life and these different areas of life as a husband, as a father. I mean, the chemo journey alone is a crazy journey. It's poison basically in your body.
Yeah.
And so, talk to us about how you moved forward as a business owner, how you moved forward as a husband, how you moved forward as a father in that process, because that is huge. It's a huge component to this piece.
Yeah, it's a good question. For me, first of all, having a strong support system around you is important when you're going through these things. Again, my wife, like Ashley, was just the rock throughout the whole process. So she actually lost her dad had passed away of pancreatic cancer 16 years ago. So she went through a lot with that, of course, and she was 18 when he passed away. But it was brought her back because the chemo thing. But then when she kind of was able to wrap her head around the fact that colon cancer is very different than pancreatic cancer, and outcomes are way better and things, that made it easier. But it was still kind of, I'm sure like PTSD types of things and all that. But she handled it like a champ. I mean, she honestly was just so strong the whole way through. So having a strong partner in it is huge. But it affects everything. I think what's interesting though to me is that looking back and going through kind of like the post-chemo journey too, is that when you're in chemo, when you're going through the whole process of surgery and recovery and chemo, you're kind of very singular focused on this fight. Everything else around you kind of like goes gray, in terms of challenges, so running a business, worrying about, new projects, cash flow, all the kind of the things that happen in a business just kind of went away. It was like, yes, I know that they're there and I have to deal with them when I'm maybe next week when I'm not going through chemo, or call my team and say, hey, can one of you guys, call this client or deal with this? Or again, most of the client work that we were doing is handled by my team, by the team already. So right. Everybody did an amazing job, and none of our clients were not taken care of, But I think you kind of just, everything else kind of just falls away and you're focused on this. And it's actually an interesting, like peaceful time. It's almost like you're in the eye of a hurricane or something. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, there's craziness all around you, but you're in this simplicity of like, I have this to fight. This is what I have to do. There's a very clearly defined process on how to do that. You're not trying to push that to go faster. You're not trying to say, can I grow up faster? Can I learn this better, faster? Can I grow my company quicker? You're not pushing those boundaries because basically the doctors are telling you, and this is a formula, which is also controversial to chemo and all that stuff too. So it's not quite that simple, but I bought into what I needed to do.
Right.
And then from everything from, my sister was super supportive and helpful with giving me kind of like also holistic things to do. I don't think it's just about the kind of traditional path in medicine either. I think you need to, I was doing some juicing along the way with Rejuice, and I was doing some healthier kind of alternatives as well. But I still believe that, like, if you break your arm, you want to go to the hospital to get it fixed, and then recovery, you can do a lot of things along the way. So a lot of things to kind of like process mentally when you're going through all that, but it's all around like the singular focus, and I think that's helpful. But I think you just can't let your mind get out of hand, because it happens, and it happened to me, and I actually have a CAT scan in 2 days again. So it's, this week, Ashley and I, my wife and I, were thinking like, well, why, like things are going well. Like, what's going on? Why are we like uneasy or restless or like a little? Oh yeah, I have a CAT scan on Thursday. So even though I had a curative surgery, and even though the chemo was supposed to, do what it was supposed to do, and everything looks good, I'm in the place where, the scans are still nerve-wracking. Yeah. I'm human. I'm not a robot. So I have faith, and I believe that, it'll be a clear CAT scan and negative results in terms of cancer. But if something happens, then we deal with it. So,
right. Well, and I go back to this like singular focus, and I think that that's such a powerful picture. Mm-hmm. Not just for somebody that's dealing with cancer, right? Because I think that that's the natural reaction is like, yeah, okay, I'm singularly focused on, I've got to come out on the other end of this. And the other things in life, like you said, just kind of become less important. Right. It's not that they're not important. They just, you have that singular focus. And I think about, we like to tie everything back to like this idea of manhood and mentorship and moving forward and being sharpened. Mm-hmm. And I know for a fact every time in my life that there's been a singular focus.
Yeah.
which is hard to do in the world that we live in because
Yes.
it's chaotic.
Yes.
There's a lot of noise.
Mhm.
There's a lot of responsibilities that we carry as men.
Yeah.
But I know like one of the things that we really we urge in the mentorship process is like less is more, right?
Yeah.
As a protege, less is more. So in the first 90 days, we want you to focus specifically on your faith, right? And so pick that one or two things in your faith journey that you want to get done in 90 days and let that be your priority. Not that being a husband and father and all these other things aren't important. They are. You've got to tend to those, but singularly focused. And I as you're explaining this, and this is not even closely related to battling cancer, but I think back to in 2013 when I committed to doing a half Ironman. Well, you can't just wake up one day and do a half Ironman. Like, so my life was consumed for 7 months of swimming, biking, running, and that's what you do. And it's when those things are singularly focused and you're focused on the right things, and a lot of great things can come from that. And when you're diagnosed with cancer, you don't have much of a choice. You've got to focus on that in order to get the positive outcome. But I think that there's a powerful picture there for the viewers and listeners to think about in their own life, is to say, okay, hey, what do I need to come out of?
Yeah.
And what do I need to be singularly focused on right now in order to come out on the other side of that? So
yeah, I loved your quote in the film. Things happen for a reason if you choose that they happen for a reason. Yeah. Can you just kind of for that listener out there that's in the middle of that storm, whether it's cancer or struggling marriage or whatever, can you just speak into like handling adversity and how they can face it head on?
Yeah, when you read that back to me, it's like it kind of gives me the chills because I remember saying that and believing that along the way, and I do still believe that, of course. But I want to just quickly say that we all have our quote unquote cancer journey or our struggle of something.
That's the truth, yeah.
So it's just because you didn't go through a cancer diagnosis doesn't mean what you're going through is not hard, because everything, when you sign up for life, which we don't really get a chance to sign up, we're here. It's hard, it's not easy. So I think the idea is, yes, I live life, and I think you can choose to live life with an optimistic lens. And when things happen that don't go according to plan, which will happen, learn to find the moments, learn to find the peace, learn to find the things that you can hold on to get you through that. Faith, my faith in God, my faith in people, and my family, all those things got me through this time. And I've had terrible moments of breakdown too. It's not like, you're a person that, you just kind of I'm not trying to say like pull you up by your bootstraps, whatever, like that saying is. Like, it's not like a fake it till you make it thing. It's a perspective and alignment that you kind of have to continually align yourself to that perspective, and I've been really now in this kind of place of study for me, of studying people that have gone through challenging times and gotten up and taken that next step, and how that's kind of motivated them to jump further. And is that something like, what's that for me now? And what is that for everybody around us? And I think you hear it all the time in athletics. I'm a huge fan of athletics because of that. Like, it's not how you fall, we all fall. It's how you get up, and the idea that we all have adversity and we're all going to go through things. And at the end of the film, I say, life isn't going to necessarily get easier, but how you handle it will get easier, I believe.
Good.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Well, we'll be joining you in prayer here in 2 days for your next CAT scan.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's an honor to have you on the show. It's great to kind of hear your story in more detail, and we're honored to hear it in person.
Thanks. Yeah. If I say one last thing, that I am filming a second kind of part of my documentary about my recovery and all these things.
Awesome.
And working on releasing kind of smaller pieces of content as opposed to one. It was only like 13 minutes, but opposed to one longer piece that will kind of show things that I've learned along the way, show like, healthy ideas and ways to kind of recover after chemo, and just recover after traumatic life experiences, and
Awesome.
it's all going to lead up to March is Colon Cancer Awareness Month, and I signed up for the Philly Love half marathon that I'm trying to train for. They're talking about doing kind of physical activity, and that will be kind of a culmination of my year anniversary of chemo ending, and it's also the whole half marathon raises money for cancer research and things too. So it'll be a really neat event. So
that's good stuff. Well, Derek, we thank you for coming in, man. Certainly appreciate the time that you've taken to come in. And, of course, it looks like we've got a technical difficulty here. No, you're fine. You're good. You're good. The audio is still working, so we're fine. There's a lot of good stuff going on here. What's new this week with Men of Iron is a new hire. We just hired Joel Kiefer as our VP of Operations, and so he just started yesterday on Monday, December 3rd, and we're excited to have Joel and excited to see what God's going to do through him. Group of advocates heading down to Florida next week for our One Iron Classic. Yeah. Those of you that don't know, we partnered up with the One Life Institute, and we're going down and we're going to battle them on the golf course. There's about 28 golfers in total, and we're going down to Streamsong Resort in Florida, raising money for both Men of Iron, and One Life. So excited about that. So yeah, just super pumped up about what's going on, and really appreciate you coming in here, Derek, and taking time out of your schedule. Yeah, Stevie, why don't you give us some final thoughts? Man?
Yeah, you can go to makefilms.cc to check out their award-winning work with Derek and his team. Like Garrett and I said, we were checking it out. Yeah, preparing for this, and you guys are incredible, man.
Thank you.
We might have to collab here in the near future with Make. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, you can go to menofiron.org/MOI podcast to watch this on YouTube or Facebook. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. Leave us a 5-star review.
Wow, you got it all figured out.
Tell your friends about it.
Yeah. Neighbors, coworkers.
Just tell them Derek Diener's on the podcast, and they're all going to come running.
That's absolutely right.
I appreciate that.
Like, share on Facebook.
Exactly. Derek, before we go, where can they get the second part of this documentary? On YouTube, your Make's website?
Yeah. So if they follow Make Films on Facebook or makefilms.cc, I also have a Facebook page just under Derek Diener that I've been sharing things along the way, kind of my journey. And that's just Derek, my last name, Diener, D-I-E-N-N-E-R. So
awesome. That's Lancaster County right there.
That is Lancaster County. Strong Lancaster County.
It is strong Lancaster. It is.
Just like Steve Glick.
Yeah, I'm a Glick. So
yeah, I know.
We're probably related somehow.
Yeah, I'm sure we are. Actually, we probably
Glick and Diener bloodline,
yeah.
Well, thank you again to our sponsor, Walk In Love. Go buy a T-shirt before you can't anymore. We love TJ and Brooke, so
yeah, we do.
Yeah, go get your Iron Sharpens Iron T-shirt too.
Yeah, they just released if you are still viewing and listening, they just did release that military and army.
I need one of those. Yeah,
it's pretty solid. Yeah. So I like it.
All right. Well, thank you again, Derek, for joining us, man. This is episode 18, and we are out of here.